It's Friday, Feedback Friday, the feedbackiest day of the week. Ha, it's Feedback Friday. And I'm going to start off apologizing to the patrons for the stuff getting up so late last night and Twitch not happening yesterday. People have watched this channel for a while know I have an autoimmune disease. I ran out of the medication for my autoimmune disease Tuesday night. Midday Tuesday. Didn't have a dose Tuesday, all through Wednesday. Finally, the pharmacy finally got a hold of my doctor, the specialist, to get a refill on it Thursday afternoon. So, yeah, it was a couple of rough days. Wednesday night, I kept waking up and my arms were, like when your leg falls asleep, it just all numb and achy, and my hands are swollen. It was a really bad scene. And the camera quality on this video might not be great. I've taken a couple cracks at making this video, and my camera keeps crashing. It's just... And then the stickers came in for the Boss Fight backer stuff, and one of the envelopes was soaked in water. So I got to contact the company and say, the stickers are wet, but I'll show you one of the stickers designed by the brilliant Eileen Redfield. This is one of the stickers. This is actually a t-shirt design she made, but backers are getting this. Momo loves me. I thought it was cute. That's one of 3 stickers in the set that the backers are getting. So that stuff's proceeding. But we're obviously talking about Boss Fight Episode 5 feedback today. There will be lots of more stuff on the Boss Fight game. If you become a patron, help support this channel, become a monthly patron, patreon.com/LeannaK. I really, really appreciate all the praise and all the love people gave Boss Fight Episode 5. This has been a tough series to get done for so many reasons. People didn't get it at first. Some people still don't get it, as you'll see by the comments. But the people who do get it, the fact that people were saying they were tearing up in places and people said they had to stop it and pause it because they were emotionally affected, that wasn't my intent, but I think that's what happens when you lean into a message of kindness, and I just think that's great. We use cynicism as a shield as gamers a lot, but it does show that when you put positive messaging out there, take some cracks and do satire and, satire farce and all that stuff, and make fun of, extreme social justice-y stuff and all that stuff. People laugh along, but at the end of the day, they internalize the message of kindness, and mission accomplished as far as I'm concerned. And the excitement about the game has been very motivating for everybody that's on the team. So that's really cool. Onward and upward. I do want to do feedback on the final episode because some of it was challenging. The praise is great. I was really validated by some of the negative reactions people had to certain things, notably Zarkazan calling Princess Sparkle Muffin a slut. One of the things that I thought was so cool about that, a handful of people messaged me privately about that issue. Every single one of them was an ex-Gamergator. And I was like, what? Okay, this is really cool. I'm sorry people didn't like it, but it was a moment you weren't supposed to like. It was interesting that no women complained about it. That I am aware of women. It was all men who were really uncomfortable, thought it was kind of over the line. And to me, that was the point. There's just something about the relationship between being assigned female and that word, right? It's something I've come up against a lot. I've talked about it a lot, how it's often used very unfairly, and sometimes played for laughs when it's really not. And I'm really happy that people treated that line with the punch that it was intended to have. It was mean, it was dastardly, it was bad, and it was a chance for Princess Sparkle Muffin to show kindness can be a superpower, because that, she was clearly bothered by it, but she didn't retaliate, she didn't get all mad, she just spoke from the heart. That's Princess Sparkle Muffin in a nutshell. She spends a lot of time overwhelmed, she spends a lot of time not knowing what's going on, but when it really comes down to it, she can just get to the core of something. And often it's being nice to someone is better than being mean to someone. And I love the way the relationship with her and Social Justice Warrior evolved, because she doesn't understand what he's on about half the time. And like every time Princess Sparkle Pony gave Social Justice Warrior a little back pat, I'm like, that's me, and I'm still touched. And somebody asked, was there a single frame that didn't have green screen involved? Yeah, a few, when it was just images on the screen, but there's a lot of green screen in that show. A lot. It was a lot of image. It was a lot of layers. But thank you for the technical appreciation of what it took to make that show, because people didn't understand that show when it first started. That's part of being a creator. Sometimes you just have to push through. I'm not going to pretend like every comment was positive. I do have some criticisms that I will try not to Beelzebub them. I will try to be respectful to the comments. I am going to laugh in a few places, but let's get to we'll do some positives, and then we'll do some just questions and reactions that were just sort of tangents that people had, and then we'll get to some of the criticism and stuff. Okay, we'll do kind of a all over the place thing. One of the things that really floored me, like just blew me away, like, wow, that's powerful, and totally not intended, was in response to the waifu section. Someone said the evolution of their relationship with a waifu made them realize they were a trans woman. And I was like, whoa, that's powerful. And so I shared that on Twitter and had some people going, yeah, me too. Wow, that's really, really interesting and really, really powerful, and just makes me feel that much more strongly that we shouldn't throw out, sexy or pretty or whatever idealized imagery of women out whole cloth. There are good and positive and validating elements to it, not just for straight cisgender men. Like, that's the part I found so powerful. When it's something like white straight cisgender men feel validated by something, and trans women feel validated by something, and like when multiple groups can feel validated by the same statement for different reasons, that's why I get up in the friggin' morning. Like, I love that stuff. It's hard. It's rare. But when it happens, it's so worthwhile, right? Connected to that, somebody asked, why would it be bad if something is there only to please men in media? Why can't men have nice things? Why must it be justified? That part of feminism, I don't understand. It's so sexist in their own way. There's like a short version to that answer and a long version to that answer. So short version is, there's nothing inherently wrong with a moment or a detail in something that's put in there only to please men. Just like there's nothing wrong with moments in something that are only there to please women. The problem comes in when something goes so far into trying to please one group that it's actually alienating another group, right? things that are supposed to be for everybody, like general entertainment. No game is for everyone. No TV show is for, you don't like something, you like something. But the problem is we get into these sort of micro-targeted demographics of creation, and it just alienates too many people. Case in point for a show that's not about, men, but it's like, I don't know who this show is for, the Batwoman show. They went so deep dive into that lipstick lesbian thing. And, CW is a network aimed at teenage girls, and that's fine. But who is that show for? It just seemed to irk everyone one way or another. And there's a shining example of there's nothing inherently wrong with trying to make a show where like practically every woman in it is a lesbian. Okay. But after a while, it's like, this is not life. This is insulting my intelligence. I should love this show. I don't like this show anymore. I like the new Batwoman, but I am behind because I just got so on that show for the longest time. The same thing happens with like Megan Fox in Transformers is an example to me of something where at first it was, yeah, she's hot and good for her. There's nothing wrong with her being hot. But she got so stereotyped and so defined by only being hot. You read some of the interviews she's done and you realize like they could have done better on that. Because the problem with stuff that's just so shameless pandering to what they believe men want is that it's not actually what men want. And what they're really showing in really derivative content is that they don't actually respect their male audience. And obviously that's an issue, right? And I agree with the commenter that much feminist analysis does not accurately or clearly depict male gaze theory. I don't use male gaze theory anymore because I just think it's really outdated. It also presumes whiteness. It presumes that said men are straight. That's just not life. So that hopefully that answers your question, commenter, because I feel your frustration. I do think it was a fair question. Someone else said, it's annoying how everyone in the games industry is obsessed with displaying strong women with typically male traits. Worse yet, point out that they are turning them into bad male characters instead of strong female ones. And they said, from Florida, and I agree with that comparison. Got me laughing so hard. Thank you on that. Yeah, I share your frustration with that. A big thing about Boss Fight was she's a fairy tale princess. And she has to, unless she broke bad, that was an option, but Boss Fight backers wanted Princess Sparkle Muffin to stay Princess Sparkle Muffin, and they wanted Social Justice Warrior to stay Social Justice Warrior, and that's cool. So the whole thing was she has to solve problems, and she has to win the day, and still be a fairy tale princess with, in her words, poofy dresses and high maintenance hair, right? That can't change. Because it shouldn't change. Because there are people who are like that. And they are just, sorry, the vitamins in the background bother me. But that is not a bad thing to be that. If somebody legitimately likes that stuff, amazing, good for them. If someone temporarily wants to perform that sort of thing, amazing, good for them, right? This whole thing about the damsel in distress started as, why can't the princess sometimes save herself? And somewhere along the way became, princesses are bad, and the word damsel started getting used as a pejorative. And that really disturbs me because the word damsel just means a young unmarried woman, like a young adult unmarried woman, which is what Princess Sparkle Muffin is. But when I saw people self-proclaimed feminist using damseling as an insult, as a criticism, I got really disturbed, because think about what the literal interpretation of that word is. You're saying that a particular state of a woman's life, there are all times where a young unmarried woman, right? All times. You're saying that's inherently bad in your language. It went way off the rails. Just went way off the rails. It went way too far. I have my theories about why. I can't say for certain, but it legitimately bothered me, because I'm not that. You might have noticed. As somebody who is more like, Wolverine than Jean Grey, I like women who are more like Jean Grey. That was a bad metaphor in that regard, but possibly somewhat true. You can't take any whole cloth type of woman and say they're bad, right? The whole thing with the whole princess thing, it got overdone. Like the Disney branding on it, the forcing women to only be allowed to be one thing at a time was the problem. What if we didn't want to be a princess? There were no options, or there were very few options, right? They've just taken the same problem and made it another. It's the freaking boho side shave hair instead of poofy dresses. And that's all anybody can be now. Like, holy shit, people have called out the fact that hair is everywhere. And yeah, that's all women are allowed to be now. Male character, make it a woman. And unfortunately, gaming does this really terrible habit of, it's male creative directors, it's male narrative designers, the story in a game, the broad strokes, the character designs, everything like that. That's not usually done by a writer in a game. When you come on as a writer in a game, you are handed stuff. You are handled characters and story, make this work. And so they'll hire a female writer, and then that writer gets blamed for everything that goes on in a game, but they're also used as a shield when people above their pay grade, when people with more power than them, who happen to be male, made a decision and basically made a female character who really isn't a female character. They're the mouthpiece for the male game dev. And yeah, taking bad male characters, poorly developed, make no sense, forced on the audience, bad male characters, making them female and claiming that's a strong woman, it's bullshit, right? So I agree with the commenter, and that was part of Boss Fight. It's a show with multiple different types of women, right? Beelzebub is very different from Princess Sparkle Muffin, and a lot of people caught that, and it made me so happy that one commenter, they said that they didn't express themselves well, but I disagree. This commenter said, each character started the series with very different points of view. As the series continued, you see how the characters not change exactly, but come to consider the merit of one another's point of view without dismissing the others and finally reaching an accord. Shoot, I didn't say that very well, but Princess Sparkle Buffet absolutely nailed it today for sure. I think you said that very well, commenter. I think you got what I was trying to do. You're not... Princess Sparkle Muffin didn't defeat people so much as she befriended them, right? And not only were the women in the show allowed to be funny and flawed and skilled in very different ways, and almost every character someone found annoying, which in a way is good because someone else absolutely loved the character because they are a character. They're not ideals. They're characters. They're individuals. And I mean, people responded positively to Serenity Sunflower's Make Under, you know, and one commenter said, I reacted to Anne Reardon's return with the kind of giddy enthusiasm reserved for when children come out of comas. You know, I mean, Anne Reardon is an Ayn Rand Atlas Shrugged reference. Lillian Reardon is Hank Reardon's wife in that book. And so to go from there for a character who's just a silly song and dance person, like, that's a big, broad character, right? Female. Shao Kind is a they pronoun, but still rainbows. And then Dolores Faye and Rochel Henchman, all very different women, all over the map, age brackets. It is doable. And gamers will accept this, and gamers will embrace it if you make them characters, right? If you're clearly sticking a strong female character into a game to make a point, when you're trying to define, especially as a male creative director, when you're trying to define for women what it means to be a strong woman, that's not allyship. I hate that friggin' word. Princess Sparkle Muffin is very strong in her own way. Beelzebub is clearly very strong. Dolores Faye is clearly very strong in her own ways. Rochel Henchman's an ass kicker, right? But they're all strong in different ways. And they all complement each other. There's only one type of woman that's allowed to be okay at any one time. And that will continue with the game, which I'm excited about. One person said, I was so busy laughing, I fear I missed about a third of the messaging. Oh, well, I can always watch this several times. Momo is a surprisingly good actor, by the way. Thank you. That's what I wanted. I wanted people to watch it, laugh first and foremost. And if they picked up a few points here and there, awesome. But the primary purpose was to make people laugh. There's not enough laughter and enjoyment in the world. And if people can laugh and pick up a few things, awesome. I don't want to lecture people for a living. I want to entertain people for a living. I want to put more joy into this world than previously exists. And so if all somebody gets at a boss fight is a laugh, great. Great. Because sometimes that's the most important thing you can give somebody at any given time, right? And Momo that cat is so easy to work with. You could just plunk him down somewhere and he doesn't just sit, right? He sits there and he's like, yep, and he responds and he's looking around. He's a fine actor, that Momo. That whole thing was 2 extended takes. So I just stood there in the freaking Zarkazan costume. We did it once on the 2. We did it once on the 1. And that was it for Momo. 1 take Momo. That cat, the only time he got fussy was when we put that contract under his paw because I'd burned the edges and he's like, whoa, that smells bad. So he had to resettle him there. But that cat is just so chill. He's a special guy. So now we'll get to the criticism parts. And this is where I have to restrain the inner Beelzebub, right? Because a lot of the really scathing criticism, it really seemed like people had come in to episode 5 and didn't watch the previous episodes and didn't seem to know what was going on and just, it was very strange. I don't know how to respond to that kind of stuff other than kind of laughing just because, okay, it wasn't for you, but there were 4 episodes to decide that it wasn't for you. People complained about the previously on opening, which is just reminding people, because it had been a while, what happened in previous episodes. See, that's the sort of thing. What do I do with that? Move on, right? One I'm only using part of a comment here because it took a while to get into the real issue with me, but it becomes very clear why I kind of went on this comment early on, but I'm still going to address it because if one person thought it, other people thought it, and hey, maybe there's a bridge here, maybe there's a learning experience here. I don't know, but so years later, Leanna Kersner is still trying to rationalize her positions towards Anita Sarkeesian. Some of it is good, but some of it is just don't criticize things. I haven't seen much of Anita Sarkeesian stuff, so I don't know her real positions, but watching this is clearly a straw man to the nth degree. I told you I was going to restrain the snark. Okay. At least I said some of it is good. Great. I don't understand these people who are so focused on criticism that they can't just go, this made a few good points and focus on that. But again, probably didn't see previous episodes because it's like, I made it as clear as possible by even putting a line in a previous episode where a social justice warrior calls out Zarkazan for plagiarizing Anita Sarkeesian. That's not Anita Sarkeesian. It's a parody of women who tended to be products of the gender studies university program that I attended. Anita Sarkeesian also did, but it's an amalgam character, right? Doing the plagiarism thing, it's an identifiable thing, right? I don't know where someone gets, I'm still trying to rationalize my positions towards Anita Sarkeesian, and some of it is just don't criticize things. At one point, Princess Sparkle Muffin says that Beelzebub savaging people's bad logic is a superpower. It's not don't criticize things. What she actually says is, at this point, everyone knows what you're going to say before you say it, so you're not doing anything productive anymore. You're just dumping on things. And based on the rest of the rest of the comment, after the commenter, I don't understand why someone gets so triggered that they will say something like, I haven't seen much of Anita Sarkeesian stuff, so I don't know her real positions, but watching this is clearly a straw man to the nth degree. If you don't know her positions, how do you know it's a straw man? Also, it's a character. Like, they're all the that's the ironic thing. All the characters are tropes, right? And the Wicked Witch trope is what, you know, that kind of feminist gets put into. So it was just a combination of the two tropes. But a lot of people did not get this, which is why I'm talking about this. But this video feels like a self-parody. Princess Sparkle Muffin's monologue feels like a parody of Leanna K's arguments written by Zarkazan herself. No, the reason I put it in Princess Sparkle Muffin's voice is because I'm the sexy characters are awesome and great and bring them on type. I'm more Beelzebub's position. I wanted certain things to be said from, you know, Princess Sparkle Muffin. What if we don't want to be like that? You know, and have Beelzebub say, that's okay. You don't have to. You know, I wanted Princess Sparkle Muffin to deliver those lines instead of me, precisely because it was from, I think, a particular type of woman who isn't aggressive and so tends to get drowned out of these discussions. And I wanted Princess Sparkle Muffin to have a moment as much as Beelzebub, who's a freaking succubus, and then me, you know, playing the sort of, you know, kind of butchy leather jacket intellectual deal. Multiple types of women, multiple points of view. Continues. She criticizes the very concept of criticism herself. She literally says not to use big words. WTF. Well, no, Princess Sparkle Muffin just said that if you use jargon, if you use big words, people don't understand them. They get lost. At least she doesn't understand them. This seems to be a person who can't understand character voice. But like I said, not the only one. Leanna K has made a lot of good points, even in this video. Thank you again. But she needs to accept that criticism is necessary and inevitable. Nothing is perfect. Everything is flawed. And criticism just means talking about the flaws, which means everything deserves to be criticized. And thus it is everyone's responsibility to get over themselves and sometimes accept that criticism. Okay, we're going to try this. Okay. I've read your comment. You admit off the top, commenter, that you don't know what you're talking about. Why should I listen to it? You don't know Anita Sarkeesian's positions and you still accuse me of a straw man, and you can't hide behind the nothing is perfect argument, because you know what? Sometimes things are still good. And the fact that even though you were looking to savage me here to the point that, quite frankly, you made yourself look stupid by accusing me of a straw man when you didn't even know what Anita Sarkeesian says because you haven't watched her stuff. You still said parts of it were good. And yeah, I'll accept that. Right? I'll accept that. But being critical of something, you are not guaranteed a hearing. You are not guaranteed your way. That's not the way this works. And this is somebody who just was exactly what Princess Sparkle Muffin was talking about. And that's the nice thing about the whole thing. There are people on both sides of this culture war. They are obsessed with needing to point out the flaws in things. Except flaws are what make things interesting. And sometimes something's just like flawed to the point that it can't be salvaged. That's true, right? But a lot of these flaws are matters of subjective opinion. A lot of these flaws are just, I don't like it. I wanted something else. That's fair to say. I do it. I think it's really weird that someone's saying I need to accept that criticism is necessary when they're complaining about the manner in which I critiqued a certain worldview, but I have to recognize that criticism is necessary and everyone deserves it and everyone needs to just get over themselves. So I challenge this commenter to get over themselves. Realize what a complete fool they made of themselves by saying, I haven't watched this, but this is clearly a straw man. I just find that people who are really obsessed with criticism, as Princess Sparkle Muffin said, what they really seem to hate is themselves. Because here's the other side of nothing is perfect. Nothing is completely terrible either. Criticism is necessary, but so is praise. People can't live on a diet of pure criticism, just like they can't live on a diet of pure praise, right? And they weren't purely critical. I don't think they realized how complimentary they were in their attempt to savage me. Because they were wrong about the criticism, but they still said I made good points. Would have been more practical to hear what good points they think I made. That would have been the beginning of a dialogue, but that's why if you are so focused on criticism, everybody knows what you're going to say before you say it, so you're not doing anything productive anymore. That's Princess Sparkle Muffin. Princess Preach. This is the message that game journalists need to get. This is the message that heavily politicized people need to get. This is the message that some people who are feeling very wounded and raw and so lash out a lot need to get. Your critiques are more powerful if you can like stuff. You will get a better hearing if you are fair. That would solve gaming's culture war. Just be fair. Say what something does well, not just what it doesn't do well. Because people who make their own stuff, you become way more focused on what people do that's great, because you realize it's easy to make shit. It's hard to make anything that people even say you had a couple of good points on. If somebody can say you made a couple of good points, who clearly hates my guts, this is not a fan of mine, but they said I made some good points. That's a victory. That's fantastic, right? I want the people who write about games and, get paid a salary and work at union websites to start being more fair. I want people who criticize things because of causes or because of identity stuff. I want them to start being more fair. No one is required to take you seriously when you don't seem to know what you're talking about. And that goes across the board for, the Kotaku and Polygons of the world, the, transphobia, all that stuff. Sometimes you are right. Sometimes they are right. Something was legitimately bad. But you have to make a case. You have to persuade. You have to convince. You can't just bully someone and say, it's everyone's responsibility to get over themselves and sometimes accept that criticism. At least they said sometimes. The times you accept the criticism are the times that you feel the criticism's fair. And we don't have that in gaming. Not enough. Not from the people whose responsibility it is to be fair. Even the criticisms that some game makers have of their own IPs, like Saints Row, they've nerfed that franchise by what we saw from Gamescom. They clearly do not understand what people liked about that series. People liked that a bisexual Asian dude was the most dangerous man in the universe, right? You don't get that, breaking stereotypes unless he's actually dangerous. It's a bunch of hipster kids doing something. They've taken all the character out of it. Now, maybe it was a bad first look. Maybe the game is more irreverent than that, but talk about a studio that doesn't understand their own IP. That's not Saints Row to me. It's not Saints Row without the Genki Bowl and a dildo bat. That there are certain tangible elements of the franchise. You can call it Saints Row all you want. But no, it's not. Right? There are certain things that make Saints Row Saints Row. That's just sense. So, gonna continue. Gonna keep talking about the game. More stuff. We've still got at least 3 characters to reveal. 2 of them are playable. I shouldn't talk up my ass. But, more news on Boss Fight in the coming days. We will start the OnlyFans series next week. Looking forward to, again, thank you everybody for your support. Thank you for letting me have a bit of a soapbox here today. Because I do think effective criticism is part of the process. And like case in point, when I talked about people reacting badly to the word slut, I hear that. I understand that. It was deliberately harsh. And that's not rejecting the criticism, right? That's saying that reaction was intentional. I didn't intend to hurt anybody with it. But like I said, I found the strong reactions very positive because of who it came from. So that's cool, right? That's cool. If you think it's cool, help support this channel. Become a monthly patron. Patreon.com/LeannaK. Thanks for watching.